secret that we have maybe kept too much to ourselves, but we
Maybe because I actually didn't know too much about this portable text playground, so I'm
yes.
glad I found out about it. So
Oh, this is a good learning moment, actually.
yeah.
So, what's happened here is that we decided to have a concept field, which I actually added manually.
How we enable React Native applications to be used inside of presentation mode.
This month, our changelog got a major upgrade. You can now subscribe to it either through RSS or JSON. You can filter changelog entries by product, which is great in this new era of Sanity as a content operating system. And last, but definitely not least, we're not just making it easier for you and your teammate to stay up to date, we're also making sure that your AI agent and your coding tool of choice can get an updated context by adding copy as markdown button to any changelog entry and the ability to append .md to changelog URLs to get the markdown version of it. But before you check that out, let's find out more about this secretive playground that Christian talks about, and also how you can combine the power of programmable and editorial when you pair AI Assist with agent actions. And finally, a guide on implementing visual editing in React Native, whether that's a new or an existing project. Christian, you're back. Thanks for coming on the What's New. We're going to talk about a few new improvements to the portable text editor. And one of those things is a one-line PTE. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Not that long ago, we put out a changelog entry for Studio, where we basically show you that you can flip a boolean in like the options of a block, and now you actually have a one-line portable text input. And this is something that many people have asked for, and well, we're finally able to kind of ship this, and it's actually all powered by something called portable text editor plugins under the hood.
Very
And we
cool.
can maybe also talk about that, but maybe I should
Yeah.
first like just show what a
Show what it can do, I think, like showing
yeah.
it in the, because we got an example repository, right, that people can check out as well. So
Yeah, so we have this test studio, and if I go to like the portable text examples, we have one called custom plugins. So it does a few different it has a few different examples of adding custom plugins in this document, and the first example is actually a one-line editor. So here we have, it looks a little bit different from a layout perspective, but it's mainly like the behaviors of this particular field that is different now, because if I try to break it by hitting enter, nothing happens. It is restricted to be one line, basically. But you notice you still have your toolbar. You can still apply formatting. You can add links to it, and this is basically something that is going to be super useful for many different scenarios where you just have a website or a web page, and you just want a single line of text. It's not your whole like it's not the whole meat of the text. It's just like a single line, maybe in a hero, but you would like to put some emphasis on a few words, and now you have the whole power of PT to do so.
definitely. And this, like you said, was powered by these new set of plugins, right, that you've been working on. That's come from
Exactly.
called the behavioral API.
Yeah, exactly. So you flip a boolean in Studio and you get this new behavior, but it's actually powered by a portable text plugin under the hood. So this is basically a concept we've been working on. We even have a little mono repository called plugins under the portable text organization, and you can see we have a few example plugins in here, and we even have like the one-line plugin that you can just grab. And yes, it is a lot about behaviors. This behavior API, maybe you've heard about it, maybe you've even heard me talk about it. And if you go into the source code of this like one-line plugin, you can basically see it's all about behaviors here. It hooks into events and it like changes the outcome of different events. I'm not gonna go through these right now, but it's actually not that long. And
But also here, there's some updates to the playground, right?
yes, so maybe this is like a secret that we have maybe kept too much to ourselves, but we
Maybe because I actually didn't know too much about this portable text playground. So I'm
yes,
glad I found out about it. So, and hopefully
exactly.
more
So
people know.
we actually have a playground for the portable text editor, and it has received quite a few updates recently. So it looks much nicer now. It has a much nicer toolbar with like more capabilities. You can even toggle like this debug menu, in here you can enable you could enable the one-line plugin here, and now you can like test it out in the playground. You can also enable the Markdown plugin that we have talked about before, so enable Markdown behaviors. Yeah, and it's just like I feel like this playground is just a really nice reference point as well in terms of like how would you build your own editor, your own portable text editor. And
Yes.
at the end of the day, since we're talking about plugins, like a toolbar is really just a plugin. It's something you put inside the editor context or the editor provider, and it like interfaces with different APIs from the editor and sets up event triggers or behaviors and yeah, that sort of stuff. So
No, but it's cool, right? Because like you've built
yeah.
all of this, and now people can basically extend to their liking, right? Like what they kind of want their portable text editor to look like. They don't have to build everything from scratch, but they can kind
Mm,
of um, put things
yes,
together with the plugins to make sure that they have exactly what they want
exactly.
from it. So that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yes, exactly. So on the portable text editor repository, I actually had like some requests about like an extended example, like how would I actually build an editor uh,
Mm,
myself. And this is one of the things that the playground also aims to be, like just a reference point. Um,
yes.
and maybe I should just show a little bit of what you can do in
Yeah,
it.
go for it.
Yeah, okay. So if I have just some text, and if you know me, I'll just write foobar um,
Good example. It's quick example. You coming up with examples are hard, right? So this is good.
Yes, exactly. So if I hit Command K now, I get a dialog to insert a link. I
Mm.
can choose what the link is, and I can add it, and now I have a link. And
Easy as that. Yep.
so we now have this example of, well, how would you upfront allow your user to choose the values that go on your annotation that you're about to add. We even have this little popover now that is like triggered when your cursor is at a link. It shows this popover. It shows that you're on a link. It allows you to edit it again, or just like completely remove it. So that again, just something that, if you build your own text editor, it's probably something you want in the editor.
Hmm.
Um, Another
There's also
example.
some behavior that are like kind of enforcing other
Yeah.
behaviors.
So for example, here, if I do bold and italic, they can exist at the same time.
Hmm.
But people have also been asking about, like, what if I want mutually exclusive decorators? And like the common example is like subscript and superscript. These should
Yes.
not
Yeah.
these should not exist at the same time. So if I had one enabled and I toggle the other, it should automatically toggle the other one off. And this is actually implemented using the behavior API, because it listens for these events, and it just like sends out slightly different events to kind of toggle the other one off.
What would you say, how would people should people get involved? Just dive into the code, check out the playground, I feel like. This is the main thing for me,
Yeah.
takeaway for me, I feel like.
Yes. Yeah. I would say do that. I would say play around with it. See if it has the matching examples that you would expect, and then go look at the code and check out how the toolbar is implemented.
So agent actions, you've been iterating like crazy, and there's a bunch of new functionality. And one of those things is that you could integrate agent actions with AI Assist in your studio. So before we go through these copy pastable examples that you've done, can you just briefly explain the difference between agent actions and AI Assist, as they are both a form of automation through AI, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, AISys was our sort of first venture into the large language model space, and it was all the way back when it was really fresh and young. And there were
Yep.
certain constraints that, some of the design decisions still, it was made for editors to be able to make reusable instructions for themselves. So it's
Yes.
essentially a way to configure instructions for a language model through a interface. But now, as things have matured, we have more context, bigger context windows. You can do more things. It made a lot of sense to make similar capability available as APIs, and this is where agent actions comes in. Because through AI Assist, you're sort of limited to what you're allowed to click in the UI. But with
Hmm.
agent actions, now you can facilitate any sort of workflow you want to, while still getting some of that schema-aware capabilities that AI Assist has, right? And
Yeah.
to make the connection between the editorial managed actions in AI Assist fit with agent actions, what we've done, we've added these custom field actions. So essentially what you can now do is add your own programmable actions that the developer or whoever is configuring the studio can add to the field action menu in the studio. And so they will sit next to whatever instructions that your editors already made for themselves. But you can go ahead and then program these in any way you see fit. And these don't have to use agent actions, but we've built the APIs in such a way that it's easy to plug agents actions into it.
Nice. Okay. And then obviously you can configure this on your own, but you've also created these super easy copy pastable examples. So let's go through some of those, shall we?
Yeah, so in the AI Assist actions, you will find this use example field actions, and there is a dedicated README for that. And there's a bunch of examples in an example style directory, and each of these are made so you can just click into them and then copy paste them as is, and then assemble them in Minior Studio. So what I've done now, I've made a fresh Sanity Studio. I've initialized it with AI Assist plugin, just according to the documentation. And here I have the plugin down here. And then I've added this new configuration, field actions, and I've made a empty use field actions hook that we're going to talk about now. This is where you would put all your field actions to sort of build out your studio. So right now there will be in the studio, we can go and take a look at it. On all the fields now, there is nothing, right? I have made no custom instructions. There is nothing in the AI Assist menu. But if we now, let's go back here and let's use one of these. So what I've done, just for a little bit easier, I've copy pasted all the directories in the AI Assist examples folder into my own thing here. And now I can just import them as I want to. So let's use autofill action. And essentially here we get the props that the plugin will provide us. It has a bunch of things that we may or may not get into, but it's there to make it convenient to construct these agent actions. Fill. And what we will do now is just build ourselves an array of actions that we will then pass back. So this use field actions is passed into the plugin through the use field actions configuration. And now if we go back to the studio, we will see that we have this autofill field. And the way this one works is that, if you run it, it will take the full document and it will tell the LLM to populate the current field based on whatever else is in the document. So now you basically have a way to auto-populate your studio.
So it's best to start with something, basically, because otherwise, like, have a start to a document at least, so then you can actually autofill, obviously.
Of course, what it's, you could even have it autofill yourself. Okay, this we don't want to have. Okay, this is a good learning moment, actually.
Yeah.
So what's happened here is that we decided to have a concept field, which I actually added manually. But in this new agent actions world, we have to deploy the schema because these run on the server. So
so you haven't deployed the schema yet because you've added this. So
no, I forgot to deploy the schema after we added the field. Which happens. So here I'll just show you. You'll run this Sanity schema deploy. This is actually a requirement for using agent actions. And you have to deploy your workspace schema to. This will happen whenever you do Sanity schema deploy, or it will also happen when you do Sanity deploy. Then it will also deploy your schema. Now we'll see what the LLM does. So it essentially told us, I don't know what this field is, and we deployed the schema, and now it can do it. So this is essentially, I don't know, this is what it gives us when there is nothing. Yeah, so let's just take a short look at how this autofill field action works. We get a lot of props passed in through the plugin system. And then we're able to determine when and where this action will appear in the studio. In this case, we're saying that if the action type equals document, we want nothing. And what's the action type document? Well, that is whatever actions appear in this top menu. Field actions appear on the field. So if you want them both places, you wouldn't have this guard, but in this case, we just want them on field. And here there's a couple of things going on, right? We're using client agent actions generate. Notice how we need to use API version VX for now, but this is going to stabilize eventually. And then we need to make sure that the target document that we're running on exists. So we just here essentially say create the document if it does not exist using the ID for the document we're currently in, the document type we're currently in, and then we just use this helper function that we're passed to get initial values. Because if you have configured a studio with initial values now, we'll have the server create the same document as you're seeing in the studio. Because in Sanity, when you create the new document, it's not persisted before you make a first change, but it's still useful for your editors to be able to run your actions without actually touching anything. So that is why that is required. There is an instruction or like a string template here where you can just use regular JavaScript string templating as you want, but you can also have these dynamic instruction parameters that can leverage stuff like document, which will embed the default document, a field, which will just embed the field value you're currently in or for that path. Or you also have, in fact, grok templates that you can use. There is like a type grok, and then you can specify a full grok query and will be able to embed the result of the grok query into your instructions. So this is just for your
So it's like highly customizable, like just like anything Sanity, basically. You can kind of customize it to your liking. You can use these example, but you can also then just extend or just use whatever you want, right? Like what works for you. So I wanted to talk to you about something that we don't discuss that often, which is Sanity for apps. Do you want to briefly touch on what you've been building when it comes to that?
Yeah, so we're going to be chatting a little bit about how we enable React Native applications to be used inside of presentation mode, which is Sanity's virtual editing space within the Sanity Studio. So if we have a React application like the one that I've got here, pretty simple for just an example, and we want to load it inside of the studio itself, so we can do things like clicking on an element and then automatically being able to edit it. And then this is actually going to click me around within my Sanity Studio structure, right? So that I can do edits where I need them, and other interesting things like drag and dropping elements and seeing some of this custom overlay information. All this comes, out of the box with presentation mode. And we are going to understand how to enable embedding the web build of your React Native application inside that mode, as we can see here. So there's sort of two things that we're offering you. One is a starter repository that you can use if you want to just build a project from the ground up. That starter repo actually loads this little application, and then you can basically change the pages and components to render your own data and add things to it as you will. And then we also have this full guide here that allows you to understand the different working pieces of that functionality so that you can add it to your own applications. And so that when you're using the starter repo, you can understand which pieces of it you need to replicate in your own pages and components. So we're going to kind of rapid fire through this. And this is a long guide, so go and read it kind of at your leisure. But we're going to kind of try to highlight the most important bits. In here, we're assuming that you've already got your sort of basic React Native application set up, and you also have a Sanity project with a studio. So that's kind of where we're starting from in our assumptions. And all of that information is further up in the guide. But we want to kind of focus on the React Native specific pieces. So we're going to set up the Sanity client. We're going to enable Stega, which is our functionality for automatically giving that click to edit function to every piece of text content in the studio. So you get kind of most of your visual editing out of the box for that content. And we'll talk a little bit later about custom elements like images and that drag and drop that we just saw. Some of the sort of cool pieces that Sanity offers you as sort of above and beyond that basic text case that covers kind of 90% of your content. So you've got a couple really important hooks that come out of our React loader here. So we pass our client into that, and we get the use live mode and use query hooks. And what we'll see those in code in a minute, but what useQuery does is loads your data when you're outside of the context of presentation mode. So when you're actually, for example, in the app itself, this is loading the data from useQuery. And then useLive mode, once it's added to the application, is going to basically take over the data hydration responsibilities automatically as soon as you enter presentation mode. So that's handled for you like under the hood. You don't need to worry about that as long as you kind of configure the calls to these two hooks as the guide shows them. So the first thing that we kind of add to our into our application componentry is a wrapping component for this enable visual editing hook. And what this does is basically connects presentation mode using that use live mode and enables the actual visual editing mode that we have there. It uses this history prop to put together essentially the URL bar in presentation mode with the internal routing of the application itself, and sort of keep those two things in sync. We use Expo for this project and for our guide, but you're welcome to change to any other framework and just replace the routing and some of these other things that we call out in these little info notes here for folks who want to use other frameworks. But you're going to bring that Sanity visual editing component in and render it in your function, in your application. And then you're going to then use that use query hook to do your actual data querying. So this is a component that loads something, similar. This is my movies page. It would load a list of movies from the use query, right? And so under the hood, without you needing to worry about it, as soon as you enter presentation mode, use query sort of delegates the data hydration over to use live mode, and you see live edits of your draft content inside of your Sanity Studio, as we saw a little bit ago. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes of how this works to give you all of those overlays for text content. But if you want to do something else, like you want to do an overlay for a custom element like an image, or you want to maybe enable that drag and drop functionality that we saw, any of these other sort of added bells and whistles that we offer you, all of which are actually individually documented over here in this left side. You can see overlays for click to edit. That's where you look at custom overlays. You've got a guide for drag and drop. You've got a guide for customizing the header navigation. All of those things use these data attributes on the HTML tags called data sanity. And data sanity expects a particular sort of infrastructural set of props, options here that we use, and we pass them eventually to this create data attribute function from Sanity's packages. But there's a little interesting gotcha in React Native, which is that you have to actually pass those to this data set prop because React Native doesn't support direct data attributes. So instead of a data attribute that gets a string, you end up actually passing it an object with sort of the second portion of the data attribute's name as the key. So we had data sanity being the underlying data attribute. So we have data set with a sanity sort of child key, and then it receives the attribute that we created earlier using that sanity helper. So that's going to be what kind of enables some of these other extra fun features, and you can sort of click into here to get to guides for all of those, and then just remember that you use data set instead of the direct data attribute. So that's kind of it. If you have any other questions or interesting things you want to talk about, come join us on our Discord server, and then check out this guide for links to the GitHub repo and other guides and documentation within the Sanity ecosystem, and let us know what you end up building.
That's it for this month's update. As always, I'm going to be sharing all the links in the description. So check out the copy-pastable examples of agent actions. Go play with the playground. Go check out the guide. Let us know what you think in the comments. And in the meantime, see you in Discord.